Why are Trumpists so incredibly pig-headed? I think it's psychological. I don't think it has to do with policy. I think it's a fundamental psychological tendency that would show up in all humans, something tempting to all of us. I think of romance as a dream of happily ever after that lives in all of us. We're anxious beings in a difficult world, what I'll call a cluster flux of a world, very complicated place. As it gets more complicated, we get more anxious, more doubtful, more disoriented. And we have this capacity with language to imagine the ideal, to imagine a utopia. And since we don't live in that utopia, we have a few options. You could call it a consolation prize, since we can't reach utopia. One is to treat utopia as something that happens after life. Another is that you can be romantic about having found the one true path to utopia. Once you've found it, it's like an express train. When you get on an express train, you don't have to pay attention to where you get off the train, where the exits are, whether you don't have any changes or transfers to make. And so you can go blind, deaf, and dumb. You can go to sleep. You can go to sleep on an express train. You can stop using your mind. It's what I call, you know the phrase, I once was lost but now I'm found, was blind but now I see. I think it's actually, I once was lost but now I'm blind. And I can afford to be blind because I'm on an express train. I have found the clear and direct path, the yellow brick road, to get me to the land of Oz. So the dream of happily ever after that lives in all of us can be tapped into if you talk about an afterlife, or if you talk about a path to the ideal. And the path would be the draw for the Trumpists. There were some months early on in Trump's rise when people were galvanized to this movement. One of the paradoxes of cults is that, or you could say of human organization in general, is that it takes a certain naivete to galvanize a movement like that will ultimately undermine the movement. It's not undermined yet, it should be, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here, is why is it that people aren't leaving this clearly absurd campaign to reach the Emerald City where the Wizard of Oz is fake? Why don't they leave it? Because they have found the path. They turned off their minds. It's an express train. They have no more doubts, no more anxieties. Why would they ever want to re-enter the world of doubt, anxiety, disorientation, and if you get enough of that, self-doubt? That is, doubt about whether you've got a capacity to handle the doubts that you're dealing with. This is typical in tough times. As the world gets more complicated, people get more anxious, and then someone comes along who claims that there's a simple path to utopia. So the desire for a utopia goes up when we're anxious, and the desire for a path, a simple path to it, also arises. You'll find a leader like this, and this leader will say, we have to strive for the inevitable. That is, there's a lot of hard work on the yellow brick road to the land of Oz, but the path itself is not smeared, it's not confusing, it's not disoriented. You don't have forks in the road where you have to decide whether to go this way or that. Having found the path is the point, is the heart of the movement. They claim they have found a path. Whether they kill us before the movement itself dies out is the crucial existential question at this point. But this is a typical movement in that respect. It's a cult. That's what happens with a cult. A cultist doesn't think they have arrived at utopia yet, but they know the path. They are on the path to enlightenment. And that's confidence enough. That's romance enough in a world where, no, you can't reach utopia. That doesn't happen.